Kan julle almal die brandpunt logo sien?
Ja.
Ja,
Nou, maar baie welkom aan julle almal. En ek wil vir Kathy baie dankie sê. Kathy, thank you so much. You and Johan van Rensburg really went out of your way to get the judging done before the night event. Again, thank you so much.
It's my big pleasure. Thank you for asking me.
We'll ask you again, don't worry.
Good. Thank you.
En dan al die brandpuntlede, ek gaan maar so spring tussen die Engels en Afrikaans as julle nie omgee nie. Volgende het ons daar was 3 salon uitslae wat uitgekom het in die laaste van dit ons laas in Mei by een gekom het. Dis die Tygerberg, julle kan sien daarso het ons altesaam 26 aanvaardings gekry, waarvan 3 Merite sertifikate is. Julle kan maar daar sien wie dit is, en dan die Durban Camera Club, ons het daar 29 aanvaardings en 3 COM's gekry. En dan die laaste een wat ons het vir die maand is die van die Bylpark. Daar het ons sommer 32 gekry. En as julle kan sien, die uitblinker hierso is Madorien. Ek wil maar baie dankie vir julle almal sê. Ek dink daar vir hierdie jaar is daar nog een resultaat wat moet uitkom, die Sassel 1, Sasselberg. En dan sal ek het met Simon gepraat die naweek, en hy sê sodra dit uitkom, dan gaan hy die Impala lys weer opgradeer en kyk wie al die kroekinkies gedoen het en hulle uithaal, en dan sal hy die lys vir ons stuur. Okay, die volgende, hierdie skermpie is die volgende salonne. Hulle begin maar meestal van die nuwe PSSA se nuwe jaar, wat in 1 Julie begin, 1 Julie 2021 tot einde Junie 22. Nou die boonste een wat julle daar sien, die Marijke Brewer Award. Marijke Brewer Award is 'n award for visual art. En dit is oop vir PSSA lede alleenlik. Gaan kyk maar as julle bietjie arty-farty is, gaan kyk daar. Dis 1 foto per lid. As julle belangstel om daar in te skryf. Dan sê Witzenberg, dan is die PSSA Youth Salon. Dit is vir die jong mense onder 19. So in ons geval is dit net ek en Pieter wat kan inskryf. Julle almal sal moet maar wag. Dan het ons Tafelberg, Sandton, Kneusdorp, en dan vir die mense wat die PSSA honors wil inskryf of applications vir hulle. En ek het nog nie gekyk wat is hierdie Society of America nie. Ek sal 'n bietjie meer detail daarvan kry en vir julle gee. Hierdie skermpie, bo kan julle sien die PSSA Interclub kompetisie, sluit die 26ste. Dan die nuusblad, ook die 26ste van die maand, en dan die webwerf kompetisie. Die webwerf, Pieter Thomas sal ons help met dit, en die nuusbriefie gaan Karen ons help. Nou die interklub kompetisie, dis die foto's wat ek julle gevra het om vir ons in te skryf. Ek het pieces, ek het 'n fotobord opgestel vir julle. Drie van jou beste foto's vir die jaar kan jy inskryf. Dit kan enige foto wees, hoef nie foto's te wees wat in die klub ingedien was nie. Dan volgende maandag die 20ste wil ek graag hê ons moet weer Zoom sessie hou en ons moet 15 van die beste foto's soek vir seniors en 15 vir juniors. Ons gaan weer soos ons met die selfoon foto's maak. Julle gaan vir ons 'n score gee. Johan sal vir ons die score hou en dan die top 15 van senior en junior kry en dan sal ek of Johan dit in fotobord laai. Dan kan julle sien hier onder PSSA het hulle fooie 'n bietjie opgesit. Dit was voorheen R7, nou is dit R8 per foto vir die salon inskrywings en dan ek dink die non-members was R11, is nou R12.50. Okay, die wat die uitstappie gemis het by Diane se huis, dis Junie se uitstappie. Daar kan julle sien hoe die model wat die was vir ons en die blommetjies en daar kan jy sien hoe die model vir Trevor wys hoe moet hy 'n foto vat. En dan maandag aand maandag die 28ste selfoon aand, tema is water. Dan die 12de Julie, klub aand tema is winter. Is daar enigiets van julle kant wat julle wil inbring voordat ons begin met die beoordeling? Okay, dan wil ek ook net vir Karen baie dankie sê vir die nuusbrief wat sy vir ons gee. En daar's baie inligting, meeste van die inligting wat ek vir julle nou gegee het, is ook in die nuusbrief. En gaan kyk maar gerus. En dan toe ons hierdie uitstappie gedoen het, ek en Diane het maar ons klein liggies hier gehad en ek wil vir Hannes baie dankie sê. Hy het sy professionele ligte saamgebring en dit het ons baie uitgehelp. Okay, ek gaan hier so ophou sê, dan gaan ek vir Johan vra om oor te vat.
Dankie Tina. Kathy, I'm going to share the photos from my side. The score's already on it, and if you then can give us feedback on each photo, just tell me when you're done. I'll skip to the next one. And ja, ons het so 42 foto's in die open kategorie, 22 in die tema. So altesaam so 64 foto's om vanaand deur te gaan. Dat ek gou begin share hierdie kant. Okay, dan begin ons met die eerste foto's. Dead Valley, Pieter Robertson, 13 Merite.
Baie mooi, Pieter. I love the fresh perspective. We see so many photos of Sauces Flay, and I've never seen it from this perspective. I really like what you've done with this, with the log and the foreground, with this guy sitting there with this red hat. It just makes such an impactful statement. I can see you've used a low ISO, which ensures a nice clarity, and there's no noise. I think to improve it, you could use a gradient filter from the bottom up and just bring down the highlights or just bring down the exposure slightly in this very bright lighter area. I think that would just bring it up to a new level. Well done.
Gabby, Karen van der Mesh, goud.
I love the pensive mood that this image conveys. Your lighting is beautiful. The skin is natural. There's no hot spots, which can be so bothersome in a situation like this. So your lighting is really beautiful, Karen. And yeah, there's such a strong mood, which to me is quite an organic, beautiful, soft mood. So in my opinion, what would even improve it more is if you could have not had this pink in front. I love the blues and the turquoise and the color of her lips and that jewelry that she has on. But I think the pink to me is a little bit distracting, but otherwise a beautiful image. I love your lighting and I love your processing. It's not overdone, it's not over sharpened, it's beautiful.
Attitude, Anne-Marie Robinson, goud.
Anne-Marie, well caught. These little creatures move so fast. So you've caught him beautifully. The depth of field is very, very shallow, but you've got it on just the right place, the sharpness on his face and his eye. But I think it looks like it was a very bright time of the day. And so your lighting is a little bit harsh. So in these out of focus areas where your depth of field is so shallow, there's a lot of graininess and distortion. I think it would have been even better if you could have got a little bit more depth of field with a deeper, a bigger f-stop or a smaller f-stop, and got a bit more depth of field. The background, I don't have a hang up with grain. I love grain in context in the right place. I think here it would be even more flattering for this image if there wasn't so much grain. It looks almost to me like the grain has been sharpened. So be very careful when sharpening images that you don't do a global sharpen. If there is grain, it will sharpen the grain up as well. And I can almost see a sharpened grain. So you need to just do when you do local adjustments, rather do local sharpening. And then you have a smoother background. But lovely moment caught.
Beskerming, Amanda Grobler, Marite.
Yeah, I love this image. I think the lines that you've managed to capture just flow into each other so well, and the mom and the foal create almost a circle of love. It gives a strong emotional message. It evokes emotion, and so there's a lot of impact. Your exposure is beautiful. Your depth of field is good. I think it's slightly the whites could come down slightly. They just on the verge of blowing out. So be careful of the mare's ears. There's some white there that looks like it's going to blow out, and just below her ear on her neck, it looks like it's blown out more from post-processing than actual exposure. So I would go back and just bring down those highlights a little bit. And even in the black stripes on her neck, there's a loss of detail. So maybe a little bit less contrast would do this image even better. But beautiful image, well caught. I love the simplicity of it.
Texture and patterns, Elise Diamond. Goud.
Very interesting and creative, Elise. I'm quite fascinated. I'm not sure what you did, but it's very eye-catching and clever and artistic. And I love the way, I think the way the lines carry your eye in. There's definitely a lead in line from the smaller squares on the left that open up and get wider to the top left, right. Something that worries me a little bit is this very white textureless area on the ball, on the bottom part of the ball. I'm not sure why there is no texture or detail in that piece. It's a bit distracting for me. It keeps pulling my eye into this white area. But very creative and beautifully done.
Bepeinsing. Pieter Thomas, Merite.
Well done, Peter. Lovely image. I think the score says what what I see. The lighting is really beautiful. There's no hot spots, and the light is in the right place. It just subtly accentuates the areas of the muscles and the veins so powerfully, but not harshly. I think it's sharp, but not too sharp. I think it could slightly improve, and it could be just the projection. On the right-hand side, there's where his boot and his jeans and his arm and his head, there's a very slight blending of the shadows into the background. But I think it's such a fine contrast that it's probably my screen or just the projection that's making it very dark, and on the top of on the right side of his head. But yeah, the pose and the lighting is beautiful. Well done.
Where is my hat? Nick van der Mesh, Merite.
Well done, Nick. Gee, the moment perfectly caught. And I can imagine the speed that this happened, but the man flying through the air is quite sharp. And yeah, you were on the ready, so well caught. It's a little bit distracting, that white roof on the top part, and but there's nothing much you can do about that, and it's a journalistic shot. So, and the three elements, the hat, the bull, and the guy, just form this lovely threesome.
Swart Swaan, Mirinda van Heerden, goud.
Lovely, Mirinda. I love the line, the angle of the swan's head. It's unusual, and the sharpness and the light is beautifully right in his eye where you want the center of attention to be. It's to improve, be very careful. I think the depth of field is very shallow, so the feather detail on the neck is out of focus, and even the beak, because the beak is the closest area to the camera. You want to see that in more detail or a bit more in focus. The point of the beak is a bit out of focus, and there's a bit of loss of detail on that white area on the beak, which is a little bit distracting. but otherwise, lovely image.
Looking good, Diane. Goud.
Oh, nice, Diane. Nice peaceful owl. His eyes are nice and sharp. And there's good detail in the feathers. I think what brings it down a little bit is the lack, there's a lot of hot spots or burnt out areas in the whites, especially on the left-hand side. And I think it's harsh sunlight. I think you could have that detail there if you go back to your original image and redo the processing. I'm sure that detail is still there in your raw file. And so when you do the processing, rather bring the highlights down before you do anything else. And that will also bring down the brightness of the grass behind the owl, which is also a little bit blown out. So it's very bright and a little bit distracting. I think if those lines were less bright, it would actually be a lovely background. But as they are so bright, they are a bit distracting.
Veldblomontploffing. Goud vir Johan.
Yeah, nice, Jan. Very creative with the zoom effect. And yeah, I like that you've got your definite center of attention in this white flower and with the yellow ones around it. I feel you could bring down the exposure a little bit. There's a lot of the whites are blown out where there's a lack of detail, and I would like to see this a little bit less exposed, and I think it will even be more impactful.
Scared of Heights. Marita Vanus.
Yeah, fantastic image in very difficult conditions. You've got to really know your story to get a shot like this, especially with the motion, with such low light. But you've done it extremely well, and the composition is also very strong with the crossing of the cloths and the opposite crossing of the lights. And yeah, the detail in the lights is there and in the darks. Well done.
Nikki. Goud vir Tino.
Mooi Albertino. Yeah, beautiful model, but good photographer. I think what gives it that extra impact is the slight diagonal tilt of her eyes. She looks very natural. You haven't over-processed her, so her skin is beautiful. The texture is there. She's nicely framed. Yeah, lovely image.
Getting Around the Barrel. Silver vir Trevor.
Trevor, I would love to know what you've done here. I think you've caught such a beautiful moment, and you've got the whole story. You know, this girl and the horse is so the main part of the image, and all the background is telling the story of what's happening. But I see a lot of disturbance on the edge of this horse and the rider, and even going down into the sand. It looks almost like it's been cut and moved, and there's so much going on around the horse and even on the horse. So unfortunately, perhaps you worked on it and didn't zoom in and see what was really happening. Yeah, it looks like it's been selected and worked on, but the lines are very, very jagged and not flattering your image at all. So, but I think it's worth going back and trying again because you've got a beautiful story here.
Granaatblomrefleksie, goud vir Salome.
Mooi Salome. Yeah, this is such an unusual image. I love your composition. I think it's creative, it's interesting, and your lighting is so beautiful. There's light going right into the shadows, deep into the leaves. The lights are all there, showing the beautiful detail of these delicate leaves. Very interesting and very creative.
Muurvergadering, goud vir Tina.
Yeah, interesting image, Tina. And I love the way that you've got these ants in with the 3, which is a very nice compositional number. And even this little one bum poking out of the flower. There's almost a bit of a humor to this picture. I like the angle, but I think that you've done a global sharpening, and it's unfortunately sharpened the background noise as well very much. And as I said before, be careful of global sharpening, and especially if you go back and check, blow it up and look at it very closely to make sure that you're not over sharpening. If you look at the edges around the ants, there's that white halo, and that's brought down the points in this image. I'm sure if you go back and reprocess it with very careful sharpening, it will be a beautiful image. And then also there's a white spot down on the bottom middle. You just get rid of that. It's a little bit distracting. But your exposure is lovely and the interest is there and your depth of field is good.
Upside down, Marita vir Elsa.
Wow, Elsa, this is a beautiful, beautiful image. I think the composition is striking. Your exposure is lovely. It accentuates all the fine detail in the petals. And yeah, just a beautiful image. I love your soft background as well.
Desert Road, goud vir Pieter.
Sure, nice, Peter. What a lovely place to be. You really get the feeling of being here, and with this lovely wide view. I think what's brought it down a bit for me is it looks like it's midday, so it's very contrasty. So your trees are very dark and the sky is very bright. The clouds are very bright, and even the grass. Perhaps with post-processing, you could balance it out a bit, bring down the highlights and just lighten up the trees a bit and bring out the shadows. I like your leading line and the distant mountains. It's really gives you a beautiful feel of actually being there. So I think it will be worth your while to go back and reattempt your processing.
Taimar, Marita vir Karen.
Yeah, beautiful, Karen. the striking attire of this lady gives it impact, and your beautiful lighting. There's lovely soft lighting that really is flattering to her skin. There's lovely detail in her hair. There's nice separation from the background, and yeah, I think it's really beautiful.
Rock Cathedral, goud vir Annemarie.
Mooi, Annemarie. Sure, this is such a special place. And the feeling you get being under this rock really gives you a nice perspective. I think to improve it and to get higher points, your composition could do with a bit more balance. You've got this very heavy rock on the right-hand side and the empty space on the left. And that's brought down your points a bit. But your exposure is beautiful. Your sky is a beautiful color. Bring down the exposure on the rock, especially on the left-hand side. But your composition could be a little bit more balanced with something on the left or if you just moved a little bit to get a bit more weight on the left with a heavier rock or a visual weight.
Ek maak geraas, goud vir Amanda.
Amanda, I like this pose and the angle that you've captured this bird. There's lovely detail in these grey feathers, but unfortunately on his chest, the detail is a bit blown out. I also suspect that the detail is there. With your processing, I'm sure you could reclaim it. And yeah, bring down the brightness of the stomp a little bit, and you've got a lovely composition. It's an unusual angle. So nice.
Featherweight, goud vir Elise.
Yeah, Elise, very well done for your creativity of using these elements together and the play on the words. I appreciate that. I think to get better points, there is lovely detail in your feathers, and the weight itself is quite lacking detail. It's quite a big sphere of darkness. And I think if you'd made the feathers more prominent in your composition, it would have worked and made a stronger composition. I can see a slight reflection of you, I think, in this marble. I think it's a marble type of paperweight. And no, I think with balancing it, it's again about the balance of the detail of the feathers and what you make the most prominent in the image.
Om die drom, goud vir Pieter.
Yeah, good, Peter. I think you were all at the rodeo at a point, and yeah, it's a good challenging theme, because these things are happening at such speed, which you've captured very, very well. And I think I don't know what lines, I don't know if you can see the lines, those red lines, they weren't there before, but anyway.
No, I think it's Michael who played around there.
The yeah, this is a lovely action image, lovely storytelling for improvement. The background is a bit bright and disturbing. If you can somehow, or with your processing, just bring down the brightness of that background, the tent, especially the tent behind his hat. The hat almost blends in with the tent. And the pole in the background is very distracting. If it was my image, I would remove that pole because it keeps attracting my eye to it, and I don't want it to. So try and bring down the brightness of your background, and even the rider and this drum is a little bit overexposed, but in your processing, you can easily remedy that.
Ja, en dis 'n Merite vir Nick. Ek gaan net gou probeer hierdie rooi lyne wegkry, Cathy.
It's on the screen, but don't worry, it doesn't worry me. It doesn't worry me, don't worry. Yeah, Nick, this is really well caught. It's a moment that you've captured so extremely well. First of all, the bull and the rider are sharp, although you get the sense of movement with this dust flying. And the three spectators in the back, the compositional element of three is really powerful. Here you can see it. It just gives the image lovely balance. And the expressions on their faces, especially the rider and the guy in the red, you can see their expression, you can see the emotion. You've really captured it well and handled it well with the speed and the light. And if you do take this image further, I would try and bring down the brightness of the tree in the background and even that white roof at the back. Just bring that down a bit, and it will even make it stronger. And for 1 star, very well done.
The Highlands, goud vir Diane.
Oh, lovely, Diane. Also getting a sense of being there, and yeah, those houses. The houses are definitely the main point of interest, and I feel as though the image needs more depth. I think if you brought down the exposure a little bit to bring out more richness and less contrast, and perhaps getting rid of some of the sky. There's a lot of sky that's very, very bright and lacking detail. And you only need that first layer of clouds to show that those clouds were there and the beauty of them. But I would crop off the top a little bit and get rid of some of the bright sky, and it would center your point of interest more on the houses. And perhaps this tree on the far right is to just lift the shadows a little bit. It's also a bit heavy, weighing the image down onto the right, where you actually want to look more to the left. So I think by lightening the tree a little bit, you're going to lighten the visual heaviness of the tree. But a lovely location, and yeah, it makes you want to go and visit.
Mommy's Protection, goud vir Mirinda.
Yeah, lovely storytelling image, Mirinda. Yeah, with the mom's hand so protectively just there on the shoulder, and the exposure is good. I like the light in the baby's eyes. There's detail in the lights and the darks. it looks to me like you have a very slow shutter speed because I can see a slight movement causing a lack of sharpness, unfortunately, because otherwise this is a beautiful image. Just check on your shutter speed, and I suspect you didn't have a tripod with a low shutter speed, so it's just lacking that sharpness.
Dylan Lange in sy inisiaatraad. Dylan Lange of Dylan Lang inisiaatraad. Dit is Marite vir Hannes.
Yeah, lovely, Johannes. This car is so sharp, and your panning is fantastic. You really get the sense of speed, and the colors are beautiful. The saturation is just right. It's not overdone. There's slightly more space in the front, giving the sense of movement that the car can go into. And yeah, even the background is a bit of storytelling. It puts it in context too, as to where you are and what's happening there. The speed in the wheels and the sharpness of the car. So well done on your panning skills, Hannes.
Eagle L, goud vir Tino.
Yeah, good attempt, Albertino. Also, a bit of panning skills involved here. Your exposure is well handled. The owl's eye is beautiful. There's detail in all the feathers. And I like the angle. I think this wing that's opened up like this makes for a very nice composition. There's a little bit of distraction at the bottom of these thorns, which I would either crop off or remove, depending, where you want to use this image. I prefer space than tight crops usually, and I feel especially a bird in flight needs space, in my opinion. So I would rather try and just clone these thorns out and that little yellow flower than crop it. But that's my opinion. But well done, well captured.
Trying to get warm, goud vir Trevor.
Wow, this is beautiful, Trevor. This is like a magazine cover shot. Her skin is beautiful, her eyes, everything. Your depth of field is nice. The sharpness is in the right place. The exposure is good. I love the background. It flatters the model. It's interesting without being distracting and overpowering. Room for improvement. I can see the light is mainly on her face and her eyes, which is excellent. So her hand is darker or not as exposed as her face, but it almost gives a difference, too different a skin tone. So I would just bring that skin tone up a little bit on her hand, just to balance out her skin of her hand and her face. It almost looks like the hand belongs to another person. There's almost a bluishness about her hand skin tone. And also her beautiful eyes are so nice and sharp and beautifully exposed, but I feel they are slightly too processed. It looks to me like they've been extra sharpened and extra brightened. So it just subtracts from a natural look. And yeah, I feel the image would do even better if her eyes were more natural and were more in line with her neck and her hand. But the overall the overall look is more balanced. But beautiful image, well done. I love the colors of it too.
Mistige sonopkoms, Marite vir Salome.
Baie mooi Salome. Well, your Marita says everything. The light on this image is beautiful. The mood that it evokes is really beautiful. The fact that you have a light in the background subtly with a bit of mist, and the mist on the water, and the birds, the placing of the birds. This one bird sitting on the branch, it just brings your eye to rest there. Well done. And the leading line of the trees is also very lovely composition.
Sketchy Rose, goud vir Tina.
Yeah, lovely creative art image, and it's very interesting. For improvement on points, I would say I would like to see more detail in the rose, in the petals. There's quite a lack of detail in large parts of the petals, which I'm sure are there. So although it's an abstract effect, I would still like to see more detail in the petals. And I think this slight sketchy black outlines on the petals are very nice, but I think that top line is a bit thick. It's actually too heavy for this delicate rose. Excuse me. I can imagine a thinner line at the top will just, you know, bring it all together nicely. A little bit more detail and thinner lines at the top of the edge.
Pink, goud vir Elsa.
Mooi, Elsa, so creative, beautiful concept, beautiful angle, creative, and your eye just goes straight to that drop of water with all those colors in, all those reflections in it, and even your lens flare under that bubble just complement it. So lovely composition, beautiful colors. Well done.
Footprints in the Sand, goud vir Pieter.
Yeah, I think here first of all, your title adds value to this, really accentuating the play on the footprints. And your leading line is fantastic. Pulls your eye right up to the dune. I think the sand, the lights in the sand could be a little bit overexposed, almost blowing out the detail in the highlights. But good, interesting image.
Road to Brandberg, goud vir Anne-Marie.
Oh, lovely. Just all the space and the feeling of expanse. Yeah, it looks like late afternoon with these long shadows and interesting texture and good depth. You can see right to the back of those mountains. The road pulls your eye in, and there's a nice curve in there, so your composition is nice. And this bossy on the right-hand side just balances it out again and adds interest. I think the sky is a little bit overexposed. The white of the clouds are could be brought down a little bit, maybe with a gradient. Just bring down your exposure on that sky a little bit. But otherwise, nicely presented.
Ek is nat en koud, Marite van Amanda.
Sure, fantastic, Amanda. This the light and the pose and the clarity of this image is exceptional. There's detail everywhere. There's not, the background is very subtle. There's no distractions, and yeah, well-deserved merit.
Kom, dit raak laat. Silwer vir Elise.
Beautiful Kudabul, and well done for capturing him like this with his clan. Unfortunately, your focus has let you down. There's no part of the image that's in focus, so it probably is camera movement or a very slow shutter speed, and that you haven't been on a tripod perhaps. But I think, and that is the main reason for your silver. Also, the exposure is a little bit overexposed, but mainly the exposure, and that you need to have up the focus. You need to have something in focus.
Radio meisie, goud vir Pieter.
Yeah, good studio shot, Peter. Telling a story and lovely lighting. It's lit in the right places, her face, the saddle. There's lovely detail. For improvement, her hat and her hair on the right-hand side blends in with the background. So you lose the separation there, which brings it down a little bit. But otherwise, it's sharp and lovely.
Soet so stroop, 'n goud vir Karen.
Well, this had me giggling and wondering. I can imagine what happened here. So full marks for ingenuity and just for being brave. I was wondering or trying to decide what you are you conveying with this image. What are you saying? What is your message? And yeah, I couldn't really decide. It could mean many things. So I give you higher marks for creativity. There's two things that worry me that have brought down the points. The first is the lighting. There's a lot of blown out hotspots, which are very distracting, unfortunately. And I see a cutting in Photoshop and very jagged lines on the top of the table, to the right, to the left, and round his arm. On both sides, there's bits of incomplete cutting that have not taken very well. So unfortunately, that's what's brought your image down. But well done for creativity. I can imagine what happened here.
Front brakes only, Marite vir Nick.
Yeah, Nick, you're really doing well with these action shots, and yeah, well done. I mean, this guy's face is sharp, and body, and the places that need to be sharp are sharp. The movement of his hand you've caught, the dust, the action of the image. Yeah, well done. You can really go back and practice doing this even more. Next time, be aware. I know I can't say to stand a bit this way or that way because you probably couldn't have. But this white roof in the background is really disturbing, and the brightness of the tree is brighter than your subject. So be aware of that next time. But apart from that, good job, well done, excellent.
Cleaning my horns, goud vir Hannes.
Very interesting, honest. It gave me a giggle because these horns are not the first thing that hit my eyes. So your title leads you into the right place. Normally, yeah, judges like to see, or they say they want to rather see the face of the animal, but yeah, this has got almost a comical slant to it, and yeah, you got your goal, so well done.
Evil Eye, goud vir Tino.
Yeah, well, good attempt, Albertino, and yeah, and these birds are not easy subjects. They're moving fast. The light is difficult. The angles are difficult, but you've good attempt. What's brought your points down is you've lifted up the shadows on the bird's belly, which has caused the destruction. So there's pixelation and the loss of detail, and also in the whites on the left wing, there's loss of detail there. It's blown out. So your exposure has brought down your points, unfortunately, but good for you for attempting.
Varkoortjie, goud vir Salome.
Lovely lines, Salome. There's lovely softness of the stalk and all the lines of the leaves and the bottom part of the flower are really, really beautiful. The whites, the detail is there. I like your composition. It's got a flowing, soft feel about it, and well done.
Chantel, goud vir Tina.
Mooi, Tina. Lovely model and good attempt. The exposure on your model is very nice. Room for improvement to up your points. Be very careful. I feel that the face, the skin, her whole face, including her eyes, are very over processed. Her skin is very smooth. So I want to see more detail in her skin. I want to see natural skin. So I think your post-processing, you've been a little bit heavy-handed, unfortunately, and do it again. Go back and do less skin smoothing, less sharpening of the eyes. So I think your lower point is for your post-processing that's just a bit too heavy-handed. And also when you're taking a photo of a model like this, if you could just bring her a few steps away from the wall, and that will just take out the sharpness of of the background, which will add depth and be more flattering to your model with her being a distance from the wall. But otherwise, your exposure is beautiful. There's detail in her hair and all the blacks and the lights. So well done.
Dis die foto's vir vanaand vir die oop tema. 42 van hulle en dit was 22 in die in die oop kategorie gewees en in die tema kategorie het ons so 22. Dit ons sommer dadelik gaan oorgaan en ons begin met die eerste ene Dreamy Forest en dis 'n goud vir Michael.
Yeah, very interesting, Michael. First, let me say, overall, of all your double exposure attempts, I'm very impressed. You were all really out of the box, trying all sorts of things. I can see double exposure, I can see composites, I can see combinations of both, but I can see lots of creativity. So hats off to you. Well done for really getting out there and doing this. And I think you can all pursue double exposure. I think it's an excellent exercise in thinking deeper on more than one dimensional level, because you've really got to think about how the images are going to work together compositionally, exposure-wise, storytelling. I think it's an excellent exercise and you've all done very, very well. I see a lot of, or quite a few images have been more composites than true double exposures. So it was a little bit difficult to judge it, you know, comparing apples to apples. And I was more in favor of the real double exposures, and you can see which ones are done in camera and which ones are done in Photoshop, and the ones done in camera or Photoshop, but without too much fiddling, have this special, beautiful, authentic quality about them. So that's what I saw, but let me give my comments of these. Michael, very good idea, very creative. I see double exposure on the trees, but what brought it down for me is this girl standing here. I can see that she's been cut and pasted in there, and that distracts. It's a distraction for the double exposure theme more than anything else. Between her fingers, there's a little bit of distracting background from the image that she was taken from. But good idea, good creativity. The composition is actually good, and I love the feel that the double exposure of the trees gives the image. I think the trees on the left you can maybe make less, take off that last two trees and just crop that section of light away, to bring your focus more into the right place in the image. But well done.
Red Moon, silver vir Pieter.
Pieter, yeah, double exposure of the moon. That's very brave to do. I'm not sure if there's enough detail in the moon for it to have got the gold. I would love to have seen at least one of the images with more moon detail in it, to tell the story, because I can, if it wasn't for your title, I honestly wouldn't be able to see that it was the moon, and your back image is very bright. So good for trying, but try double exposure for the moon again, please.
Blurred Vision, silver vir Anne-Marie.
Anne-Marie, good attempt. I like your black and white. And the double exposure here is a bit distracting for me. It's almost as if it adds a blurriness or without the double exposure hasn't added to the story or added to the texture of the storytelling of the image. It's just a slight movement and another shot taken. And also the whites are very blown out, which unfortunately brings it down a lot because there's no detail there. So yeah, practice a bit more on your exposures.
Kop in die wolke, goud vir Pieter Thomas.
Oh, Peter, I would like to know if this was the double exposure or done in camera or in Photoshop. I can't say for sure. I suspect it's done in Photoshop. I love your idea and your the technique that you've used. There's a nice story. I like the diagonal line where the split of images are and the slight overlapping of the clouds on her face. Yeah, good attempt, but I can see it is done in Photoshop, unfortunately, because you gave yourself away. On the bottom right-hand side, there's the line of the images that you've overlapped. So when you do these composites, you've got to be very careful and zoom in and check the details that you don't, you know, leave little clues like that, because it can just be that distraction that brings you down a bit. But good attempt, good try. I like the story of it.
Strength in each other, goud vir Nick.
Yeah, good concept, Nick. Tells a story. You're getting an emotion. You're evoking emotion, and I like the way that you put these two images together. Unfortunately, also your cutting has let you down. There's a line around this man, and on his left eyebrow there is an area that's not properly cut out, and also there's this triangle under his arm. So good idea, creative, technique has let you down a little bit. So more practice, but good idea.
Alana J, Marita vir Karen.
Karen, I can really sense a true double exposure here that you've thought about and put together so beautifully. The colors, the feel, that you've taken the moods, you've put the moods together well, and created a piece of art that tells a story and evokes emotion. And you've thought about the composition, and it's worked. So well done. I love it.
Windpomp meisie, goud vir Diane.
Yeah, nice creative story, Diane. This image makes you think of a lot of things, and I think you've been brave. You've jumped out of the box and you've attempted something different. I like the way you've accentuated her eye with the that part of the windmill, and use different color effects. Yeah, I think it's creative, and the girl's face is the prominent feature, and it's nicely done.
Deur my venster, goud vir potties.
Yeah, very interesting, Johan. I was trying to work out what you did, if it was really double exposure. I don't think so. I think it's done in Photoshop. What brought it down for me was the detail in the forest image. The flowers in the background or the midground are not. They've lost their detail a bit, and also the lines of the window are distracting because they are distorted. If these window uprights, the vertical lines were straight, and it felt as though you were looking through that window, I think it would have had more impact and more artistic reality. But good attempt.
Girl on Fire, Marite vir Marinda.
Marinda, I love this image because you've also, it looks almost like it's done in camera to me. I can just get that feeling that it's being taken with thought, and it tells a story, and well done. Well done.
Car and wall double exposure, Marite vir Hannes.
Hannes, this is a really an image with a lot of impact, and I am not sure if it's in camera or in Photoshop where you've layered two images, but either way you've done a fantastic job. The fact that the panning is there, but the text is sharp, the background tells a story. It's very interesting. It makes you look 3 times at all the detail. So well done. Well put together.
Hou vas, goud vir Tino.
Yeah, interesting concept, interesting artwork. I'm sure this is done in Photoshop, but you've given it a good shot, and yeah, it's telling a story. You've put something together that's evokes interest, and it's very interesting. I think for improvement, be careful of your exposure. Even if you are using double exposures, you have to use good images that are well exposed without blown out pieces. On the top of the plane, there's a very bright spot, and which unfortunately is distracting, and it spoils it. It brings down your points. So be careful when you're putting two images together. You know, don't think that you're covering up or distracting from blown out parts or images that are not really up to scratch. Excuse me. So be careful of that, but yeah, interesting concept.
Decanter, silver vir Trevor.
Trevor, good idea, good attempt. Unfortunately, I think the technicalities of this have let you down. There's a lot. There is disturbing aspects that have pulled your points down. For if you look at the top, the screw cap of the bottle, there's something going on there that's not making sense to me, which is very distracting. I think you've done this in Photoshop, and be very careful when using a brush and when selecting with selection tools, because here that has let you down. But I get the message and what you were saying, and you've fitted the bottle and the decanter together very nicely. But yeah, unfortunately, the editing has let you down here.
Faces on the walls, goud vir Tina.
Yeah, interesting and quite artistic. And yeah, I like it. I think for improvement, both the images are quite grainy and pixelated. I'm not sure why, if the images are very small and that you've blown them up. But the concept is good. I like the lines, I love the colors, and I like the two faces that are not quite the same size, or they're different angles. Yeah, it's very interesting, and it makes you look twice, and it adds interest. So well done. It's just that the quality of both the images are not quite sharp or clear.
Voortrekker, Marite vir Elsa.
Also, what I feel, I can sense a feeling of authenticity of this image. I predict that it is in camera, double exposure, and you've the way that the soldier is superimposed over the wall of the monument, and his profile is darker. The rifle that's at this leading angle. It's interesting. It tells a story, and I think it's well executed. Well done.
Ruben, Marite vir Michael.
Yeah, I think I really enjoy this image. It tells a story. It's beautifully shot, and I'm not sure if it's done in camera, but whatever you've done it well, and it's yeah, it tells a story, and I think it's very creative and well done.
Burning Love, goud vir Diane.
Yeah, very unusual, Diane. You've attempted something completely out of the box, so well done for that. Just be careful with your Photoshop brush. There's a very hard brush that you've used that have caused definite brush lines that detract from the quality of this image. And I think your composition, I would feel if the girl was more to the right, that she had space in front of her, and that she wasn't right on those trees, would strengthen your composition. the flames are also very, very bright, and there's places where there's blown out areas which are distracting and unfortunately detract and bring down your points. But I think if you redid this, move the girl to the right, be careful of your brushes, use soft brushes, zoom in and check that there isn't distracting, destructive areas. You could make something of this image.
Volmaan, silwer vir potties.
Potties, I'm sorry, both of these images are very, very pixelated, unfortunately, and it looks like they're very small. If you can see the halo lines around these structures. There's no sharpness, and that has let you down. Your composition is interesting, and the repetition of the moon with the circle on the ship, I think it's a ship or pier. Your composition is interesting and so nice, but the quality of the pixels is not there, and the reason for your silver. So be careful, make sure your images are a good enough size that they're going to project with good quality and good pixel quality. And you need, especially for double exposure, you need good quality images for it to be successful.
Two leopards at sunset, Marita vir Marinda.
Yeah, well done, Marinda. I like the way that you've put this together, and it tells a story. And what was interesting is your title, because I looked and saw one leopard, but your title made me look deeper, and then I saw the second leopard. So titles do count. And yeah, interesting image and it also conveys a feeling of the bush more than an actual sharp image of an aspect of the bush. It conveys a beautiful mood. Well done.
Girl in the window, Marita vir Elsa.
Now, lovely, lovely image, Elsa. Also full of mood, storytelling. Even in your colors and your lighting, there's this subtle moodiness. Your double exposure, whether it is in camera or layered in Photoshop, it's successful in my opinion. The line of her arms forms a triangle and a diagonal leading line. The light on her cheek and just showing her lips. The curtain, yeah, it's just well put together, well executed, and a nice story.
Ligdoring, goud vir potties.
Yeah, good attempt, Johan. Also conveying a sense of being at the sea, of a moodiness and a feeling, giving the lighthouse and the clouds the texture of the water. It's almost got a dreaminess about it. To improve, watch out for your exposure. One of those images are overexposed. There's blown out areas, the areas that are distracting and bringing down your points. Unfortunately, so be very careful of the quality of the images that you're using for double exposure. Yeah, go. I'm not sure this is in camera or not. If it's not, go and process it again. And even if it is, bring down those highlights and you might be surprised.
Silent Hunter, goud vir Michael.
Sure, lovely image, Michael. Very powerful, lots of impact. Good quality images. That moon is beautiful, the owl is beautiful, the background is beautiful. It falls, I feel it falls more into the bracket of composites than double exposure. I think as a composite, it deserves much higher points. But I doubt whether it is double exposure, real double exposure. So I'm sure you'll do well with this image in a creative section as a composite more than a double exposure. But it's beautiful and it has lots of impact.
One Heart, One Soul, goud vir Michael.
Michael, very much the same comments as the last one. It really has so much impact and storytelling, and it's very well executed as a composite. I think in a composite section or creative section, it will do extremely well or much, much better than the point you have here. So it's about double exposure. It's not about getting a low score. It's about the section that it's in. But beautifully done.
Dis aan al die foto's vir vanaand. So ons is deur almal van hulle. Ek het vir Kathy gevra om vir ons 'n wenfoto aan te wys vir elke kategorie. Ek moet net gou oorgaan na dit toe. So dan in die oop kategorie is ons wenners hier van Nick is die oop junior wenner. In vir die seniors in die oop kategorie is dit Amanda met Ek is nat en koud. Dis die oop kategorie senior. En dan vir ons temas junior tema Girl on Fire van Marinda. En die senior tema kategorie is Ruben van Michael. So dis die 4 wenners wat Kathy vir ons aangewys het. Baie dankie Kathy. Ja, weet nie Kathy if you want to share something more or then Tino, back to you.
Yeah, I want to say thank you. I thoroughly enjoyed looking and evaluating your images, and well done to all of you. Even for the silvers, it's just practice and looking at the finer points. Well done to all of you, and thank you for having me.
Like to say thank you, Kathy, and you went in detail, and I think all of us can appreciate that. And yeah, I think you were very generous with us tonight. I think we've got about 25% got merits. And for the members, thank you so much for doing the effort. And I see Leo has joined also. Welcome, Leo. Kathy, thank you for your time, really.
My pleasure.
Is there someone else that wants to say a word or two?
Thank you, Kathy. I think we learned a lot from your comments, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Thanks, Elsa.
Ja, baie dankie Cathy. Dit was baie interessant. Ons het baie van jou geleer.
Oh, dankie Karen.
Dankie.
Baie dankie, Kathy.
If you
Yeah,
don't mind, if you don't mind saying, I think your judging was very, very fair and very accurate. I really enjoyed that.
Thank you, Trevor. I appreciate that.
Cathy, baie dankie. Soos jy gesê het, die hele idee van dubbelverligting, vir my wat 'n beginner fotograaf is, het 'n hele nuwe wêreld vir my oopgemaak en dit maak my baie opgewonde om aan te gaan met dit en baie dankie vir jou effort en jou goeie kommentaar. Dankie.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Yeah, as I say again, the double exposure definitely takes you to a new level of thinking about composition and exposure and storytelling and how, yeah, it's challenging but good for you. Good for us as photographers. I think it can only do it's a good exercise to do.
Dankie. Ek dink ons hou nooit op met leer nie. Lekker slaap.
Baie dankie julle ook.
Totsiens. Bye.
Dankie julle
Dankie,
almal.
Kathy.
Lekker slaap. Bye.
Ja, maar bye-bye.
Baie dankie almal. Lekker aand en die video behoort môre op YouTube beskikbaar te wees.
It's a handwritten picture, but is it? And I have to.
Dankie Johan.
Als reg, lekker aand julle. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you,
Baie
Kathy.
dankie Johan en Cassie weer.